Guys, so we're back for another manifestation video. Today we're going to be talking about why manifestation is like a bridge. Want to know more and you want to be able to easily relate to manifesting in your life? Keep on watching. But first, make sure you're subscribed. If you didn't know, I had to restart my YouTube channel many years ago, and I'm finally just getting back on here. So every subscription means a lot, so I can hopefully make a difference in more people's lives. So you've likely heard of the bridge of incidences before. I mean, I talk about it in my book. Why don't we look at that excerpt first? Right? My book, Debunking the World We Live In, your spiritual handbook and guide at any stage of your awakening. More specifically, when it comes to the way I'm going to teach the bridge today. Page 90, a sort of ripple effect moves through the world's energy without us processing the full details. The places we visit, the people we meet, where we study, the emotions we feel, etc., are all tied with invisible strings through Earth. You may have heard of the invisible string theory, a sequence of events leading you to someone you are destined to meet. Reflect on your life and how you have been connected through bridges of people or events, and you'll be surprised. So, the bridge here is trying to get you to the destination of where you want to go. Have you ever seen one of those suspension bridges? If you're from the Lower Mainland or Vancouver, maybe you've heard of the Capilano suspension bridge. But generally, a suspension bridge connects two places and it's suspended in the air, and it can be a little bit wonky. And that's the sort of bridge that I want us to look at today. You have A, and you're trying to get to B. So there's a pillar here and a pillar here. In between is a bridge. Okay? This bridge swings back and forth. So you're starting from A, the now, and perceivably B, the future. This is where you seek to be, right? That's the goal. So this is where you are without whatever it is you want, the relationship, the job, the move, the house, and this is you with it. All right? You're looking at this and you're like, well, there's a huge gap. A lot of the time we look at this as our really big manifestations. I just did a whole podcast episode on this, which is going to be out on Sunday, 2 days from now. If you're watching in real time, today is January 23rd. So make sure you're paying attention to that as well. Everything is linked. I've done a couple of manifestation episodes and other manifestation videos on my YouTube if this is the first time you're watching. So these really big manifestations are seen to be so out of the norm and ordinary. Sometimes people forget that we are manifesting every second of the day, every minute from when we wake up to when we go to bed, from when we're sleeping, we're astral projecting. All of this is happening. And where people get really tripped up is when the bridge starts to shake. It starts to move. Okay? There are like little steps here, and it looks like teeth from a shark, but this is a moving suspension bridge. So when you start going from A and you're making your way to B, things are going to rattle. So what is this rattling going to entail? Negative emotions, confusion, things changing. So if things are changing in your life, things are shifting in and out, that's a requirement. It could be fatigue, anxiety. And I also talk about all this in my book. The audiobook's available on my Spotify. It's also available on Kindle, or you can download the ebook off my website. So I don't want to get so in depth in this, but basically you are purging old energy, and the purging of old energy is going to bring up negative emotion. And a lot of people try to avoid that negative emotion because they're like, this negative emotion means I'm not achieving. It means I'm not getting to where I want to be. That's incorrect. Because when you are at A and you seek to get to B, when you are on this bridge, when you are on an actual bridge, suspension bridge, whatever it is, to get to your destination, and the suspension bridge starts to rock a little bit more than you're comfortable with, you're holding onto the ledge and you're like, I literally have to walk across to get to that side if I want to make it over there. The landmark over there, the coffee shop over there, whatever it is. I have to be okay with the fact that this is rocking. So you have to be okay with the fact that all of this exists. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The acceptance of that, the recall of it, and understanding why you had to have the negative emotions, why the confusion was there, why things were changing, why the fatigue was there, why the anxiety was there, knowing and trusting after some experiences of manifesting thus far is going to help you make this an easier transition. So are you going to hold on super tight at A and be like, I'm not going? Some people do because they're scared of heights. This looks scary. That's fine. They're never going to cross the bridge, right? We're not thinking about it from that way. But when you're sitting there, this is like you're at the edge of the plane, you're about to skydive, or you're at the edge and you're about to bungee jump. You're like, I'm going to do this thing. The similar note when it comes to taking the step, you're going to expect to face this way. And that's what this is. So when you set out to manifest what you want, when you're with it, and right now you perceivably are without it, you think you're without it, and I'll come back to that, you have to be okay with what ebbs and flows are going to result, because a version of you that has it is not the version you are right now. Either it's transitioning in and it's filtering in and the universe is bringing it in, right? Or you have to embody the version of you that has it. Okay? So, what does that look like? When you go from A and you want to get to B, it's the bravery, the courage, the confidence, and the trust that you're safe. Thousands of people maybe do this a day, hundreds of people do this a day, however many people do this a day. I know they're safe. I see them over there. I see them crossing back in a real world scenario, right? We're not going back for a manifestation, but you're going to be less scared. When you jump off the diving board the first time, you're not like necessarily feeling really confident about it. You may have a little bit of that anxiety. The second and third time, you're like, I'm good. That was exhilarating. So I want you to think about your manifestations a similar way, because it does take bravery, courage, confidence, and trust to let go of the grip at A, so you can be in the with it and in the embodiment. Oh, I spelled that wrong. So what is embodiment? That's the way you act. It's the way you show up. It's your routine. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, what would I be doing differently today? How would I be looking differently? Or would I look different? Would I look different? Would my routine be different? If I'm not working out, would I be working out? If I wasn't putting myself together to look a certain way every single day, that doesn't mean you have to do your hair and makeup. It could just mean, do I feel great in what I'm wearing and how I'm presenting myself? Because the presentation is a frequency. You're omitting that usually when you're without, but emitting it, that frequency and that vibration to the universe shows them, yes. Ooh, and I can feel that in some of your heart chakras. The emission of that shows the universe, this is the frequency. They had told me that this is what they would look like, that this is what they would do, that this is what it would mean for them to have this manifestation. So we must bring it to them. And the 3D is a delayed projection, so you need to persevere. It may not happen right away. The decision is instant. The universe gets the message instantly and starts to orchestrate it. But that orchestration also requires for these things to change. So what relationships would be different in your life? Would people be acting differently? Would you not be talking to some people? Would you have to have a certain conversation? Would you have to create certain boundaries? You don't get to decide to do that once the thing comes in a lot of the time. Not when you're consciously manifesting. Otherwise, it's a little circumstantial. Like some people, let's say, get into a relationship and they see, now I need to have different boundaries with my parents. So I'm going to go and assert that now that I can see through this lived experience that I need to make the change. And where a lot of people get tripped up is like, I'm going to just hope that they change and not set the boundary because it's easier. right? But when you know that you would have these boundaries in place, like I would have already moved, I would have published this thing, I would be creating this, I would have bought this. It doesn't mean you need to go spend all your money. That is what the universe sees as a signal of now I can match this up. Now it fits. This is not a square peg, round hole. Now it's square peg, square hole. They need to be able to match it up. So when you are not in alignment with what you want, this is what the universe sees. So they're going to go and give triangles to somebody else. When you are in alignment, they're going to see, yes, they're fitting into what they've manifested. So a little bit more on this and how we can get to the point of the universe seeing this automatically, providing automatically. There's something that I call the filter. So we're going to talk about that next. All right, so let's get into the filter. The filter is like a sieve. You know those things that you sieve the flour with or you're processing your food through sometimes? Let's just look at the filter as this. Okay? This filter becomes clearer when you have this perseverance. So I'm going to try to help you make sense of this. But your filter starts like that. It's a little opaque. The more that you persevere, the darker it becomes. The easier it is for the universe to find that than it is this, right? It's like a dimmer switch. When your light is very low, you're not going to be able to see as much. The universe similarly can't find you. When the light is bright, it's visible, right? So the way in which you get more clarity, the way in which you become opaque is by continuing to feed your manifestation. So the positive emotions, embodiment, trust, belief. And how else can you do that? I cover this more in depth in my podcast, okay? So listen to that through visualizing and affirmation. Okay? So when you visualize and when you have these affirmations, that's how you can feel more into it. And so you need to find the situations in your life that help you feel all of those positive emotions, like happy, grateful, confident. Okay? What's going to help you feel all of those positive things? It could be a situation from your past. Maybe it was a good experience with somebody that you're no longer with. But you're like, oh, I remember how that made me feel. Don't get so scared that if you think about that moment and it makes you feel good, that you're going to manifest that back with that person. Okay? It's more so injecting that feeling. Like you can visualize that and be like, ooh, now how would it feel with this person? And you're going to feel a different set of emotion, an enhanced set of emotion usually. So that is how you can visualize. If it's easier for you to visualize that way than to start fresh with the visualization, which is essentially a timeline that exists that you're unlocking in your mind, okay? So see how powerful you really are, where you're like, oh yeah, I want to visualize this. It feels so good. It feels so real because it is in a parallel universe. It could be something, like I said, you're using from the past because that was a version of you, or it's a version of you from now that is seeing, oh, this is what I want. And it'll maybe take a little bit of time to catch up, but you've already created it. So now everything that follows, like we were talking about in the bridge of incidences, when you're going from A to B, will be helping you get there, even if it's not visible, even if the person's not visible, even if the opportunity is not visible, even if the house is not visible, because there are things that the universe starts to orchestrate behind the scenes. They ping that person to start going to therapy. They ping that person to reach out to you. They ping that person to go to this place that you're going to be at. They ping the people to say, you know what, it's time to sell our house. Or you know what, it's time to resign this job. So that all happens slower in the 3D. And you have to continue to persevere, to trust that even though the next day is not the day that I have it in my physical hand, that I will be able to continue to feed this so I can go from dim to bright, from light to dark, to stark, to power. And so when it comes to filtering, when this becomes clearer, like we can have the very dim version of us, right? Where it's not completely formed, where more things can drop into this field, let's say. More things that you don't want start to settle in to here. What do you do in those moments? Do you fall off track? Majority of people will. But the stronger you become in creating this version, the less penetrable it becomes. Okay? So that means, again, you have to have all of this up here. When you see that stuff is falling through the cracks, it's a symbol for you to realign, to revert back, to correct your subconscious. Say, no, we don't need this blue stuff anymore. The blue stuff is a reminder of what we want instead. So you start to lace this with all the red of all the stuff I want instead. Okay? And that's why the embodiment is super important, because it helps the universe see that these blue things are not in alignment, and therefore it can't penetrate anymore. And it may still come in because you're filtering out. So don't be discouraged in those ways. But once this conviction becomes really strong, which can take some time, weeks, sometimes months, days, depends on where you're at in your healing process, your manifestation journey. At the beginning, this could even take years, it could take months, and then it'll shrink. The more confident you become, the more you stay in alignment, the more consistently you do this, the more you trust, the bigger changes you make, and you see those changes through, this becomes stronger. So then the universe will be able to stop it. Your subconscious will say, cancel, clear, delete. We don't like that anymore, because you've reprogrammed it enough. You've shifted it enough. You've corrected it enough. And one of the most powerful places to be is when your subconscious tells you, we don't believe that anymore. I thought we don't believe that anymore. And you're like, shh, yes, thank you for correcting me, programming. Thank you for updating. It's like if you're consistently updating your software every single day, every single time the pop-up comes up, you're not going to be sitting there one day before a really big meeting having to wait for your entire software to upgrade. Okay? It's equivalent to that. And one other thing that I want to talk about before I close out is when we get into this new timeline. Let me erase this and show you. Okay, so when we get into this new timeline right here, and maybe previously we were here, right? This is where we just left. This timeline has certain memories, associations. When we decide we are going to step into this version of us through embodiment, and we started to feel differently, we start to feel better. Our memories, they don't come with us a lot of the time. Sometimes they don't come with us. This timeline version of you has different memories because this is a different timeline. This one may be a little bit more difficult to come along with in terms of an analogy. It's still something I'm trying to suss out with the universe and my guides. It doesn't mean that none of this existed. It existed in the timeline that you no longer want. Cancel, clear, delete, right? So when you decide that you are no longer, like your worthiness is increased, right? Your value has increased. When you see that I am no longer unworthy, I am no longer undervalued, when you see that, some of the memories or some of the associations that you had, they're not coming with you here. You have to drop the old version of you, just like you drop the old version of your situation with a person and you want to manifest a new version of them. This version of you has new memories. They have their own history. It's like if you were to pick up a history book and you were to read the history of Sudan versus reading the history of Vancouver, there's a whole different chronology and so many different aspects to that, right? So think of your life the same way. With this timeline version of you, because these parallel timelines already existed, had different experiences. So try not to bring in all these memories and associations into this new version. You learned from it, you grew from it, you are no longer calibrated to accepting that it's no longer magnetic for you. You've grown. So you don't need to continue to identify and associate with all the memories and associations here. Because the version of you, which is a better version of you, a valuable version of you, the one that knows their worth, the one that has persevered, never accepted those traits in the first place. So you may start to forget or disassociate from things you knew in the past timeline. All right. I hope that helped you guys understand a little bit more about manifestation. I would love if you leave a comment, thumbs up, and subscribe down below. Let me know what else you'd like to know about manifestation. Also, make sure you check out my Instagram, my TikTok, and my latest Spotify episodes, all linked in the bio. All right. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.